Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today on Masechtas Moed Katan daf Chav Ches, we are going to begin on the last line on Chav Zayin Mud Beis. So the Mishnah said, "V'lo shel nashim u'ayim ne'akavod," that we don't have a woman who has died put her remains in the public area because of a lack of respect, because of the potential of dam nidas. We'll see. Amrin Adal lo yishanu. The only time we say this is not allowed in Chav Ches Amud Aleph. El chaya, only if she died in childbirth. Says Rashi, Shemesa machmas vlad, shehi shofas. Therefore, she has blood that's running. Therefore, it's an embarrassment. Avol shar nashim menichin. When it comes to other women, it's okay. Rabbi Lezer, no. Feel shar nashim. Even all women, we don't do this. T'chsev v'tama sham Miriam v'tikaver sham. Samach misa kvura. That we do the misa right after the misa, we do the kvura. Yom Rabbi Lezer, af Miriam b'neshika mesa. When it came to Miriam dying, she died b'neshika, from a kiss. Asya sham sham Moshe v'mnei malu nemer ba al pi Hashem. So why does it say literally from Hashem's mouth? V'mnei shegenai hadavel oimroi. Because when someone who doesn't learn Torah properly and misconstrues certain things, they would perhaps mock this. And therefore, the Torah is very particular to make sure that it's done in a respectful manner. Omer of Ami, Lomanis Machamisas Miriam Parshas Paraduma. We know that this is in close proximity to the din of Paraduma in Parshas Chukas. So it's Lomacha, Ma Paraduma Mechaperes, Av Misasun Shal Sadikim Mechaperes. That just like we know the paraduma causes an atonement and it causes a form of purity, so too when a tzaddik dies, even though it's a terrible tragedy, but they achieve kapara for all Klal Yisrael. Amar Lezer lo menismach misas aron b'dei kahuna. Why is, and this is also in Rashi in Chumash, the misa of Aaron connected to the b'dei kahuna? Sama b'dei kahuna mechaprin af misasher sol sadikim mechaperes. We know, as is discussed in Erechin, elsewhere, that each of the garments of the Kohen Gadol have different forms of kapara, and therefore that's the connection, so to their misa. Tanabanan. Meis pitoim, says Rashi, shluchol, a person wasn't sick, and the person just died suddenly, zuhi misa chatufa, means that this person was like snatched away. Chol yamech, if you're sick one day, umeis, zuhi misa dechufa. This means he was like pushed away. From Chanani ben Gamliel Omer, Zuhi Misas Magefa. It's a misa that takes place of a magefa, of a plague. Shnemar ben Adam hinni lekech mimchas machmad einecha ben magefa. So it says explicitly that it was a magefa. Ksiv v'yadaber la'am b'boiker. He spoke in the morning, but Thomas Ishti b'erev, and she died in the evening, which basically means in a day. Now shnei yomim. Let's say a person was sick for 2 days. Umeis Zuhi Misa. This is also considered to be like a misa which that person was pushed off. Gimel Ga'ara, Arba Zikifa. Now when it comes to Nazifa, as we talked about, Nidoy and Nazifa has to do with an element of anger, that the person was a form of punishment. That's why he died. However, Chamisha, Zuhi Misas Koladam. If a person was sick for 5 days and then died, this is a normal cause. Amr Rav Chan and Mikra. What's the pasuk? So hein karvu yamechel amus. It says that my days are close to die. Hein chad karvu. So hein chad karvu trey yamecha trey hachamisha. So that's 5. Hein chad shechein b'lashon yavani shekarin ba'achas hein. In Greek, the word achas is hein. Meis b'chamisha shana b'chamishim shana zuhi misas kares. If a person dies at 50 years old, that shows that perhaps it's due to kares. Chamishim ushtayim shana. Let's say he died at 52. Zuhi misaso shel Shmuel haramasi. We know that Shmuel haramasi, he died at 52. Fine. Shishim zuhi misa b'di shemayim. Person dies a little later at 60. It's not kares, but it's possibly misa b'di shemayim. Amar Mar Zutra Mikra Dechsiv Tavai Bekelach Ele Kaver Kekelach Begematria Shitin Havia. So if you look at the word, it has the numerical value of 52. The word bekelach. The bays and the chet is 10, 30. Shitin havi, that's 60. Kelach is the numerical value of 60. Shivim seva. The person who lives 70 years, that's a nice age. Shivim gvorois. If a person lived shmoinim 80 years, that shows he had strength. As we say in Tehillim on Shabbos, so a person lives 70, if he's strong, he can live 80. Amar Rabba, Mechamishimvad shishim, from 50 until 60, shana zuhi misas kares. From 50 to 60 is kares. V'haidolei chashavhu mishum kavayda shel Shmuel Ramasi. Because Shmuel died at 52, we only say 50. But the truth is, anytime between 50 and 60, a person who dies, that's considered to be kares. Rav Yosef ki havi bar shitin, when he turned 60, Avalahu Yom Atavel Rabbanan. He made a party. Arminafkili mi kares. Clearly, I didn't deserve kares, so that's a reason to celebrate. Ramli Abai Nehid and Nafakle Mar mi kares Deshani. Maybe you didn't. You're good as far as the kares from years. Mi kares de Yomi mi Nafik Mar. However, how about the kares of days? Says Rashi, Shema Yomos Misa Chatufa. You may still die suddenly, and if you die suddenly, that is also an element of kares. I guess that ruined his party. He said, no, at least I have half, right? At least I can be celebrate the fact that years is not something which took place to me. Rav Huna noch nafshi pitom. When it came to Rav Huna, he died suddenly. If you look on the side, it says Zamni perish Shem Adam, okay. How you so Havi Kodagi Rabbanan. So Rav Huna, which we said this whole story a couple dafim ago, his greatness, and he ended up being saving Rav Chaga by a fire when he was being brought. Rav Huna was a great tzaddik. So what is this? Is this being kares? Tanahu Zuga Demi Hadayev Lo Shanu. And that's like a parish of name. That's only if you don't reach 80. The reality is, once you're 80 years old and you die, even if you die suddenly, that's misa neshika. So Rav Huna, we see from here, was at least 80 years old when he died. Rabba chaye b'nei umazayni. This is an unbelievable Gemara. When it comes to how many years you live, your children, and how successful you are as far as mazonos, it's not based on your merits. It's completely, totally on having mazel. The complete mazel of how, if you're successful in any of these three things. The Rabbi Rav Chisda Tervayu Rabbanan Sadiki Havi. They're great Sadikim. Mar Matzli Vyasi Mitra. One would daven, rain would come. Mar Matzli Vyasi Mitra, rain would come. Rav Chisda Chaya. When it came to Rav Chisda, comparing to Rabbi and Rav Chisda, Chaya Tishin Utre V'Tartin Shnin. He lived 92 years. He lived a very long life. Rabbi Chaya Arboyin. Rabbi only lived 40. Some say because he was related to, he was a B'nai Eli. Bei Rav Chisda Shitin Hilule. According to Rav Chisda, he had 60 marriages for all of his kids. Bei Rabba Shitin Tichle. For Rabba, he had 60 burials. Bei Rav Chisda Semida Lekalbe. He used to give fine flour to his dogs. Dlomis Boi. Bei Rabba Nahavda Sar Leinshe V'lo Mishtachach. Even barley bread for people he couldn't find. So we see that even though those were great people, the reality is that these three things of having a long life, having children, and also having sustenance is, as it says, b'mazla tali milsa. It's not based on your schus, but this is what was already predetermined. This is what's going to happen. And even though that sounds horrible, but on the other hand, it could actually be very empowering to know that the reason why things happen is not necessarily because a person is good, a person is bad. Taisa says over here, Ha di amrun b'soif Shabbos ein mazel Yisrael, right? So it says b'mazel tali milsa, right? And that's why we say mazel tov to an individual. But then we say ein mazel Yisrael. So Taisa says, V'yesh loymar d'lapa'amim mishtana alidei mazel. Sometimes it could change. Ki hanu dehasam upamim shein mishtana. Sometimes it doesn't change. Nikosik more in Tainus Gabi Rebbe Lezer ben Padas the Dermale Nichalach the Achrif Alma Ule every Idna de Mizayni. Okay, so anyway, the point is that and it's possible that the Chiluk of Einmaz Yisrael is talking about on a communal level. However, for an individual, there is an element of mazel, which makes sense why we say mazel tov. Okay. V'yomer Rava hani tlos mili deboy k'mei shmaya. These three things you should daven to Hashem. Tarti yoivle, two he gave to me, chadol yoivle, and one he didn't. So chachmase the Rav Huna. So I asked for the knowledge of Rav Huna, v'oyitrei the Rav Chisda, and the wealth that Rav Chisda had, v'yoivle, that I got. Anavasanase the Rabbi of Rav Huna lo yoivle. I asked for the humility that he had, but that much I didn't get. Says Rashi. Fine. Okay. Rav Seoirim, where it says over here, Rav Seoirim, Achva the Rava Havi, so he's a brother of Rava. Yosef came to Rav, he was sitting in front of his brother, the Chazid Havi Komenamni, he was sleeping. Armule Lemule Mar Deloy Litzaran. So same I'm going to say something to you to not cause anguish. So Amalei Mar love Shishvini who says you're not like my guest. Amalei Kivan the Imsar Mazel lo Ashkach bi. He said that since he's given over to the Malach Hamaves, lo Ashkach bi, do not pay attention to me. Amalei L'schazili Mar. So he said, come to me in a dream. So L'schazili Amalei Havilei Lamar Tzara. So he said, was the death actually a painful death? Amalei, so in this Rava said, Ki rivda de kusilta. It's like the removing of a scab of sorts. Rava Havi Yosef came made Rab Nachman Chazda to come a nam name. He was like dozing off. Amalei lemle mar delol tzaran. Let me say something so you're not going to be in pain. Amalei mar lav adam chashivu. Amalei man chashiv man sofin. Man rakia, Amalei lichsili mar. So he said, come to me in a dream. Lichsili Amalei havile lamar tsara. Was it painful? Amalei kim shchal benisa michalva. It's like removing a hair from milk, which is considered like, as the Gemara Bracha says, that's considered misa of neshika. Vi Amalei Kodesh Baruch Hu zilba hu alma kad haviz lei beina. And if Hashem Himself would say, go back to this world, I would say that I don't want to. I'm satisfied where I am. The nafish biasuse. Because I am afraid of the Malach Hamaves. Rabbi Lezer havi ka'achol truma. Rabbi Lezer was eating truma, schazile, so the Malach Hamaves appeared to him. Amalei truma ka'achilna, v'lav kodesh ikri. Right? What right do you have to kill me at this point? I'm eating kodesh. It's not a good time for you to be coming here to harm me. Chalfulei shaita, so he left him alone. Rav Sheish is schazile b'shuka. He appeared in the marketplace, the Malach Hamaves. Amalei b'shuka kibehema. What are you doing? You're going to kill me in the marketplace like a animal? Let me go home. Ravashi is chazile b'shukar malei israch li tlasin yomi. Give me 30 more days. V'hadu talmudai, so I can review my learning. The Amrisu, that it said Asher mi shabolakan v'talmudu biyadai. Praiseworthy is those who come to Olam Haba and they have their Torah in their hands. B'yom tlasin, he came right away on the 30th day. Also Amalei. Michael, hi. He goes, what are you doing? Why you had to come this exact moment? So Ravashi was wondering, could have come a few days later. Like I wasn't like anticipating you had to come. So kadach ragle the Rav Nosson, because you're pushing the legs of Rav Nosson. In machas nagas b'chaverta feel kimoli nima. In other words, it's necessary that he has to take over your position, but I can't allow him to take over the position until you die. Rav Chisda was such a tzaddik that Malach Hamaves was not able to get a hold of him because he was constantly learning. It's a similar story to David Melch. Solak Yosef Arza the Bay Rav, so he went on top of like a cedar tree. Paka Aris of a Shasak, so he broke a branch and he was quiet. V'yachale, and was able to grab him. Rav Chia, v'loy habi matzel l'mikra v'lei, similar. He wasn't able to grab him. So Yom Echad idmile ka'anya. He appeared like a poor person. Also tarfa babi natan dormale apically rift. They said, "Give me bread." Afikule. So it was brought to him by someone else. Armalei says, "V'lav kamarachim mar anya." Are you not going to show mercy on the poor? Who gavra my lo kamarachim mar? Why isn't he showing compassion? Golili. So achvile shaitin nura amsile nafshe. So as Rashi says, v'yadahu malcham avos. He noticed that in fact this was the malcham avos, and at that moment the malcham avos was able to get him. Question 3. Beis oifen afal pi shemes pitoim einzu misa chatufa. So when is it not considered to be a misa chatufa, which could be a sign of chores? So he said if a person died after, like Rav Huna, 80 years old, that is not considered to be a misa chatufa, or as it says, higil l'gvuros. So again, once a person reaches that age of 80 years old, then they're no longer considered to be under that category. Okay. Just make sure I don't have any more questions over here. Okay, let's continue now to Chav Ches on the base. Next Mishnah, last Mishnah. Noshim b'moed. So when it comes to women on Chol Moed, ma'anos, they're allowed to be ma'anos, and everything is going, as Rashi, below pirush, right? So we're going to, it's all going to be explained in the Mishnah itself. So they are allowed to be ma'anos of a low metapchos. Metapchos is going to be clapping. Shmuel Omer hasmuchos lamit, that they're close to the beer, to the casket, metapchos, they can clap. Parasha Chadasha, b'chanach b'porim, ma'anos, u'metapchos, they can be ma'anos and metapchos, zeh b'zeh, however, lo mekainanos. We don't allow kainanos, like lamenting. We'll see exactly what that means. Nikvar hames, lo ma'anos, lo metapchos, that once the mace is buried, then we do not do this anymore. So, Eze Inui, what is this whole thing that you, on Chol Moed, you could be ma'anos, so Shekul and Onos Ka'achas. If everyone is basically crying and calling out together in unison, that is allowed, but not clapping. However, as we said, Rosh Chodesh, Chanukah, Purim, you could cry out together, you could clap, but you're allowed to be mekainai. So what's kina? She'achas madaberes v'kul and oines achareha. If one person calls out, and then there's like a chorus after them. Shenemar, as the pasuk says in Yirmiyah, v'la meidna b'nai seichem nehi v'ishara usa kina. In the future, there will not be death. Hashem will wipe away the tears from all faces. Says Taisus, Bil Hamaves Kedei L'Sayim B'Davar HaToiv. In order that we should finish up this Masech in a good way, because we've been talking about death so much. So because of that, Mishum Demoed Katan Hu Soif Seder Moed, because this Masechta is the end of Seder Moed, which is a very fascinating thing, because I thought that really the Masechtas Chagiga was the end of this Seder Moed. So it's certainly interesting if perhaps Chagiga was in a different order. I entice this. My Amron. So what was said? So Amar Rav vai la'azla vai l'chavila. Woe to who left the world, woe to the pain. Rashi says chavla. Amar Rava nashe, these women, dishach tchanetziv, that from this place, Amran hachi. Vai la'azla, woe to those who left this world. Vai l'chavila, again, woe to the pain. The Amar Rava nashe dishach netziv Amran, good garma mikacha v'namte maya l'an tiche, that the cheeks were fell from their mouths. As Rashi naflu milachayim, it fell like from their jaws, and they had water pouring out. Rashi says, Kloimer, Hadri Mayil Mafreya, the water came like backwards, Klapi Lamala, toward the front. Yomi Rabba, Nishay, the women, Deshach Nitziv, Amran, they would say, Otuf, wrap around, Vikase Ture, and wrap up and cover up literally mountains. Davar Rami Ubar Ravrave. Who? V'Amar Rabba Nishay Deshach Nitziv, Amran, they would say, Shayul Itztala, the Milta Lavar Chayrin Dishlim Zabde, that you should borrow this garment. Says Rashi, Kloimer Yafa Misa Kemalba Shel Milas. It's as good as this garment. Says Rashi, Shekolu Mizayneth Shuani. And now you're comparable to someone who is poor. Yomer Rabban Neshe Deshach Nitziv Amran, they would say Rahit V'Nafel Bara. You should run. You'll fall on a bridge. V'Zovta Yosef, and you will borrow money to cross. Fine. Because you're like someone who's poor who has nothing. Yomer Rabban Neshe Deshach Nitziv Amran Achana Tagre Azav Zagei Midabku, that these merchant brothers will check over one another. V'Omer Rabba Neshe Teshach Netziv Amran Moisa Ki Moisa Umarin Chivulaya, that they're great and horrible are their wounds. Tanya Hayra Meir Omer Toivel Lechas El Beis Avel, better to go to the Beis Avel than the Beis Mishta. So he would say this, Ad V'Hachai Yitin El Liboy, Devarim Shel Misa, the Yispoid Yispedune, and they'll all eulogize you. If you say this and you do this, then since you did a hesped for them, eventually they'll eulogize you. The Yikvor, if you bury them, Yikbarune, you'll be buried. The It'an Yit'anune, if you carry the Aron, then someone will carry your Aron. The Adal Yidulane. Similarly, if a person will be moved, so they will also be lifted up and moved. Yikadi Amri, some say, Dlo Yadol Yidulune, don't lift yourself up. Tachsev Kitoiv Amalacha Aliheina V'Gaimer. Tanurabana. Kishimesu Banam Shel Rabbi Shmuel, when Rabbi Shmuel's children died, Nichnasu Dalad Zakenim Lanachamoi. 4 elders came to console. Rav Tarfon, Rabbi Yosi, Haglili, Rabbi Lezer ben Azariah, Rabbi Kiva, Armulhem, Rav Tarfon. So they wanted to console Rabbi Shmuel, the terrible loss of his children that died. They said, De'u, you should know, Shechachem Gadol, who you're a great knowledgeable person, who Baki Bagadais, Al Yechanais Echem Yikem L'Taich Divri Chavero, no one could even come close to you. So I'm Rabbi Kiva, Diani Acharain, and I'm last. Pasach Rabbi Shmuel, V'Yomer Rabbi Avonosav, great is our sins. Tachpuhu Evolov, you're engaged in mourning. Hetriach Rabboisav, and they're troubled. They're busy in this Avelos. Pamishainu Shnia Naana. So the first and the second time, they're for first and second time to be Menachem. So nan Rabbi Tarfon v'Omer v'Achechem Kol Beis Yisrael Yivchu Es Hasreifa v'Halo Devarim Kabel Man Nadaba Vihu Shlo Asu El Mitzvah Achas. They did one good thing basically. Dechsev v'Yikru b'Bnei Aaron Es Damam Elov. They brought the dam. They brought the karbanos. So Kach Banav Shel Kach. So Banav Shel Rabbi Shmuel Kama Kama. Your kids were so great. Then certainly. Nan Rabbi Yosef Guli v'Omer b'Safdil Lo Kol Yisrael v'Karba v'Yisrael v'Hadavan Kabel Chaimer. Ma Avia Ben Yeravam, when it came to the father Yeravam and the Vat, Shlo also El Davar Echad Taiv, he did one good thing. Dechsev Be Ya'an Nimsa By Davar Taiv. So Kach, so Banav Shel Rabbi Shmuel Kama Kama. Certainly, you should be acknowledged. Rashi says Hetriach Rabboisav Sheboyin Lanachma. It just meant that they went to console him. So my Davar Tov, what was this good thing that the Avia Ben Yeravam did? The Avia, the son of Yeravam. So Rav Zer, Rav Chanina, Bar Papa, Chada, Omer Shebitel Mishmarto, that he was Mavatal, as Rashi says, Shemoishim Aviv Shomer. We know the Rabbi Navat put this guard. It says on the side, Ish L'Regel Ubatel Mishmarto V'Oila V'Oila Regel. In other words, he told people, Yerubim, as we know, said you can't go to be Oila Regel. So his son Avia removed that person. So now people were able to be Oila Regel. V'Chad Omer Shebitel Pardeisais, that he basically stopped the officers, Shahoshiv Yeravam Aviv Al Darachim, that he put them on the road, Shul Yel Yisrael Regel. Okay. Fine. So what was the first? Shibitel. Okay, fine. So basically, similar idea that says Rashi, Shahoshiv Yeravam Shul Al Yisrael Regel. Fine. Nana Rabbi Elazar ben Azar v'Yarmer b'Shalom Tomus. In peace, they died. Umisreifos avosecha hamalachim harishayim asher hayla fanecha kain yisrafu loch lo devon kavachaymer ma Sidkiyahu melech Yehuda. Sidkiyahu, who was shelo asa ela mitzvah achas, he only did one mitzvah, she'ela Yirmiyah ben min hatit, that he elevated Yirmiyah from the ground, from the dirt, earth. Kach banim shel Rabbi Yishmael achas kama v'kama. Fine. So now the Rabbi Akiva Rabbi Yomahu Yigdal HaMispad Mirushalayim K'Mispad HaDadrimoin Bavikas Megidoi. So this is actually Gemara Megillah. Yom Rabbi Yosef Ilmoli Targumule. It wasn't for the translation Targume. The Haikra Loi Habiyadanam Aikarma. It would be hard to understand this pasuk. Be'inna Hahu Yiske Mispade Mirushalayim K'Mispada Di Achav Ben Amri. That it was comparable to the hesped of Achav, the Kotel Yasei Hadar Rimoin Bar Tavrimoin, that he killed Hadrimoin. Ukemisped the Yeshaya, comparable to the hesped of Yeshaya, Ben Almoin the Kotel Yasei Paroi Chagira, the Vikas Megiddo. V'lodavam Kavachayim, Ma Achav Melech Yisrael. When it came to Achav, and then we had this big hesped for him, Shalo asa el davar echad toiv. He only did one thing good. Dechsiv v'amelech hayamaimin b'markava noichach aram kach. So one of shal Rabbi Shmuel achsakama v'kama. So let's see Rashi. Fine. But I'll ask v'kama. Amalei Ravel Rabba bar Mari ksivbe b'sidkiyahu b'shalom tomos. In Shalom he should die. The Chesiv v'as ene Sidkiyahu iver, that he was blinded. So Mali Hachiyam Rav Yochanan Shemeis Nebuchadnezzar b'Yamav, that Nebuchadnezzar died in Sidkiyahu's lifetime. B'Yamar Ravel or Rabbi Bar Mari Chesiv be'Yoshiyahu l'chein hini oisivcha al vosecha. I'll gather you to your fathers v'nesavta el kivrosecha, to their grave sites. B'Shalom. Uksiv, it also says that they shot arrows by Yeshayahu. The Beis Hamikdash was not destroyed in his lifetime. The Rav Yehuda Rav Shiasuhu Kichavra, that he was made like into a kasiv. Rav Yochanan Shlicharav Beis Hamikdash b'Yamav. Again, the Beis Hamikdash was not destroyed in his days. We'll stop here. Let's take a couple questions. Question 4. Noshim b'Moed Rosh Chodesh ha'im metavchos al libon. So on Chol HaMoed we said being metavchos, like banging or clapping your hands on your heart or in your together. So b'Moed we said we do not do that. Rabbi Shmuel says if they're smucha islamita, if they're close to the casket, you could. And Rosh Chodesh metavchos, that we do allow. Question. Fine. Okay. TA. No questions on that. TB 19. Ksiv b'Sidkiyahu b'Shalom Tomos. Ksiv Yeshayahu v'nesavta al kivrosech b'Shalom. B'man niskayim b'hem shenikra shemes b'Shalom. How do we see that they died in peace? After all, it doesn't seem like they died in peace. So the Gemara says, by Sidkiyahu, because Nebuchadnezzar died in his lifetime. So that was like a huge relief for Sidkiyahu. And for Yeshayahu, that the Beis HaMikdash was not destroyed in his life. So therefore, even though, as we saw, they died, so how was that B'Shalom, host with peace? So at least by Sidkiyahu, Nebuchadnezzar died before, and when it came to Yeshayahu, the Beis HaMikdash still remained until only after he died, the Beis HaMikdash still remained standing. Ad Kan.